Hello, and welcome back to the Bear Tree Homestead YouTube channel. Today we are taking you on a little tour.
What if all I've said is true? That you could make a change, the pieces rearrange. I see someone who will survive.
Back behind us we have what used to be the garden here. When we moved in, this was all already here. It had timber lining, a few different beds. There was asparagus and rhubarb back in there, and I suppose there still is somewhere in that mess. We did let it grow over this year because after planting last year, we had a whole lot of problems with pests, and we decided anyway that we wanted to move our garden to the other side of the house. So we just kind of left it to go. Every now and then we'll move the chickens through and let them have their way with it. But for right now, it's a nice big prairie. We do plan on having some grapes growing out here. We do actually have a few vines that I found on super clearance at the beginning of the season, planted back here. We are going to build a big trellis, a big arbor over it, and have just a grape tunnel is the plan.
So we've decided that this side of the property is going to be the fruit side, and that we're going to do kind of a permaculture food forest type setup. We're basically going to we're going to plant a bunch of stuff. We're not going to have a whole lot of structure to it. We're kind of just going to let it grow and see what thrives, and hopefully we get a lot of food out of this area. We're going to focus mostly on fruit plants. So for instance, we've got this bush cherry behind us, and then this other cherry that is behind it that was actually already on the property when we bought the house. We've also got a small peach tree back that way, and then we've got a small bed over just off camera here that we actually started up because we had a pool sitting there for a while, and then we took the pool out and we just had this dead spot, so we decided to put a garden in.
So this year it has tomatoes and tomatillos and I don't even know what else. Brussels sprouts I think are over there. But we also have a little kind of raised bed full of strawberries, which you've already seen. And we plan on doing a few more of those just to kind of keep the strawberries contained because they can get out of control. And then we plan on having blueberry bushes, which we do actually have a few, but we plan on getting more. Blackberries, raspberries, currants, I think that covered it. Cherries, maybe a few more fruit trees up this way. But all of our vegetables we have on the other side of the property, which we will take you over to now. Back behind us is the new garden. This is where we plan on putting all of our vegetables from here on out. This year we have our one raised bed that's back behind me, and we also have a little makeshift bed that we use for lettuce and stuff. We really only had the opportunity to put in one bed this year, though we plan on putting, I think 4 is what we had agreed on, at least to start. I would like more. We also are planning on making arches in between 2 rows of beds to do some vertical gardening, playing around with that for space saving purposes. And we're also going to this fall prep a no dig bed for next spring, where we'll put tomatoes and some other stuff next year. We also are going to eventually have some fruit trees back here because we have a nice big open space, so we'll have apples and pears, and I want to try plumcots if we can. Plumots? I don't know how to pronounce them, but they're really tasty. Am I missing anything?
In the future, we will do a video on how we built these beds and actually how we did them for under $100, and that includes the wood to build the bed itself and all the soil and compost to go in it. So stay tuned for that. So back behind me is the site of our future orchard. We already have a couple trees going right now. We plan on planting more in the future. But one of the more exciting things we plan on doing with this area is starting a small apiary. We want to raise and grow our own bees so that we can have honey and beeswax and all the fun stuff that bees produce, and use those to make various products for ourselves and others. Back this way is where we are tentatively planning on housing goats. We're gonna basically build a small pasture back there, put fencing up, and we're gonna allow them to go ahead and do the hard work of getting rid of the ugly evergreen bushes in front of our house, because goats love that stuff. We're not entirely sure how big of an area we're gonna do. Thanks, truck. We're still kind of in the planning stages of this. We're probably another year or two out before we actually get the goats. But we have big plans and big hopes and aspirations for them. So behind me we have the old coop. This is the third coop that we built for our chickens. The first one was actually just in a little kind of closet space, sort of, in our garage. The previous owners used it as kind of like a dog grooming area. And so there's a little doggy door out the back with a little closed-in kennel. And so we used it. We only had a couple chickens at the time. So we used that little kennel area as their run, and we closed off half of that little room to serve as their coop. We've since taken all that down and repurposed it for other projects. After that, we built a small tractor, which is on the far side of the barn, and that worked for a little while, except we kept forgetting to put the chickens up at night, and unfortunately our dog ended up killing one of them. So we stopped free ranging after that. So this was the third coop that we built. And it served fairly well for us, but the problem we encountered is that the chickens basically ate the run bare. They ate all the grass, they took it all out completely, dug it all up, and it doesn't drain terribly well back there, and so when it rained really hard this spring, it would just flood and it would be just a soupy, muddy mess back there, and it really wasn't good for the girls. So that's why we built the tractors, so that we could get them out of that mess and actually put them to work on the farm. And this fall I'm actually going to build a new coop by breaking this one down, and it's going to be inside the barn, which will keep them better protected from the elements and from predators. And then we'll also have a 3-sectioned run that we'll be able to cycle them through. We'll be able to rotate the run, so that way it'll give the grass time to grow back, and then that way it doesn't become another soupy, muddy mess for them.
Seeing what we have going on in our homestead, now I'd like to talk a little bit about what we'd like to get going on in the future, some of our goals.
Well, one of the big goals we have is to get 80% of our food from our homestead, from the garden, and about 20% just supplemental stuff from the store that we can't really grow here in our Zone 5 Wonderland. Stuff like citrus and some proteins. We do plan on having an aquaponics system to harvest and farm fish, and we get some protein from our eggs, and I'm sure that we will have meat chickens one day as well, and then we'll have dairy from the goats, but stuff like beef and pig products we're not really going to be able to handle here in our small of space.
The idea is to be as sustainable as possible on our own. And to go with that sustainability, we not only want sustainability of food, but also sustainability of energy. We want to invest in solar and wind. That's something that's probably going to happen 4 or 5 years down the road. Right now, at the moment, we're just not in the right place financially to make that big of an investment. And as the technology gets better, it's going to come down in price. But what we're thinking currently is we'll go about 75% solar and 25% wind. The reason being, in our area, we are very fortunate that we have a lot of wind here. It's a very windy place. In fact, we're in the most windy part of the state and one of the windiest parts of the country. But even with that, wind generation systems are still incredibly expensive. And a system that would power our home with our current energy needs would run us between $30,000 and $40,000. So the idea is we'll go mostly solar, as solar is significantly cheaper and it's only getting cheaper every year. And then use wind to help supplement, have wind generating power 24 hours a day, and then solar doing the bulk of our needs during the night or during the sunny hours.
The idea is to be off-grid, kind of, sort of, and to cut down on just our bills in general so that we won't have an electric bill anymore, we don't have a propane bill anymore. We already have well water, so we don't really have to worry about that, although I would ideally like to have a water collection system set up for watering the gardens. And yeah, to knock out our food bill and then just one day in the far, far future be able to retire and have no bills to really worry about.
We want to quit our jobs.
I don't have a job, I retired.
Anyway, I hope you liked the video. I hope you found it entertaining and hopefully informative. Like and subscribe, and tell all your friends about how cool our channel is. I hope you come back for another video. You guys stay awesome.
And if you have anything that you want to hear more about, feel free to leave us a comment down below or send us a message. I think that's it. So we will see you in the next one. But we made it through.